My sister's dark design. The day I got fired, I went home to my grandma's and learned how to play gin rummy. Meanwhile, my entire family was tearing the city apart looking for me. Why? Because my sister, the family's golden child and a so-called genius jewelry designer, hadn't been able to sketch a single decent design since I'd left. In my last life, it all came crashing down at the National Jewelry Design Competition. Somehow, my sister, Sophie, always managed to debut designs that were identical to mine, just a heartbeat before I could. Everyone assumed I was the copycat. My own family stood up and testified against me. The company I worked for, citing moral turpitude and damage to their reputation, fired me on the spot and slapped me with a lawsuit for a staggering amount in damages. My family, seeing me as nothing but a liability, threw me out. Crushed by the weight of it all, the public shaming, the loss of my family, I fell into a deep depression. I was killed in a hit and run, struck by a car driven by one of my sister's obsessed fans. Even as my consciousness faded, the question haunted me. How did Sophie always know? How did she always manage to create my exact designs, just one step ahead of me? Then, I opened my eyes. I was back. The day before the National Jewelry Design Competition. Sadie, are you feeling confident about the competition? The chatter in the office pulled me back from the dizzying vortex of memory. I looked around, my heart hammering against my ribs. It was real. I was back. Are you kidding? Sadie snagged the Designer of the Year award 3 times running. A colleague, Maria, said, giving me a playful nudge. She's got this in the bag. I managed a weak smile, unable to form words, because only I knew what was coming. In my last life, I submitted a design I had poured my soul into for days. On stage, in front of everyone, I was branded a fraud. They displayed 2 sketches on the main screen. They were identical, down to the last delicate line of filigree on the setting. But the timestamp on the other submission was a full day before mine. And the artist? My dear sister, Sophie Walker. She stood in the audience, her eyes wide and red-rimmed, staring at me with a look of shattered betrayal. She brought a microphone to her lips, her voice trembling as it echoed through the auditorium. Sadie, how could you? If you were blocked, I would have helped you find inspiration. But to steal my work? Why? I was frozen. That was my design. It had lived on my encrypted laptop, unseen by any other human eye. Before I could even begin to explain, the crowd erupted. Get the plagiarist off the stage. The nerve of her, showing up with a stolen design. She doesn't deserve to be a designer. Fraud! I grabbed a microphone to defend myself, but my voice was drowned out by the jeers. A few scattered voices of support were quickly silenced when my own parents took the stage. They held up photos of Sophie, supposedly working through the night at her drafting table at home. They spoke of their profound regret, of how they were ashamed to have a daughter like me, and announced their intention to sever all ties. After that, it was over. No one believed me. Security escorted me out of the building. The moment I turned on my phone, it was a firestorm of hatred. Back at my apartment, I checked my laptop. No viruses, no spyware, no remote access logs. The computer and my physical sketchbooks had been with me at all times. There was no conceivable way the design could have leaked. But Sophie's was identical. Every idea, every spark of inspiration, every line I drew, it was all mine. I could not have copied her. It was impossible. Hey, Sadie. Maria's voice cut through my thoughts again. I heard your sister is competing this year too. Any friendly family rivalry? Who do you think will take home the top prize? Not long after I'd started at this firm, Sophie, by some mysterious coincidence, had gotten hired too. The mention of her name sent a jolt of pure terror through me. My fists clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms, drawing blood. My sister. Sophie. When she was born, she didn't cry. While all the other newborns in the nursery were wailing, she was silent. My mother, convinced it was a bad omen, brought in a spiritualist, a so-called seer, from the mountain. The moment the old woman entered our house, she didn't look at the baby. She looked at me. She said our fates were crossed, that my life force was a shadow cast over my sisters, making her weak. She said my presence would slowly drain the vitality from Sophie. The solution, she claimed, was for me to be sent away. Otherwise, Sophie wouldn't live to see her 25th birthday. From that day on, my parents' only goal was to get rid of me. I must have sensed it. I tried desperately to win them over, to show my affection for my new sister. I brought my favorite stuffed bear into her nursery, a peace offering. Her room was already overflowing with brand new dolls and toys. As I got closer, she looked up at me with a wide, innocent smile. For a second, I thought she liked me. I was wrong. She shoved over a tower of blocks and immediately burst into tears. My parents rushed in. They saw the toppled blocks, their crying infant, and me standing there. The first thing I felt was the sharp sting of my mother's palm across my face. My ears rang, and I tasted the metallic tang of blood. At that moment, I understood. Sophie and I could never coexist. Soon after, I was sent to live with my grandmother in the countryside. She raised me, a tough but loving woman who did it all on her own. 2 years ago, my parents suddenly reappeared, asking me to come back home. I was starved for their affection, so I foolishly agreed. Now sitting at my desk, I stared at my computer, at the portfolio of my life's work. Sophie had been a dancer her whole life. When did she ever find the time to study art, let alone jewelry design? I asked a colleague to send me Sophie's portfolio, the one she'd submitted to the company. He emailed a file. I clicked through it, my blood running cold. Design after design. They were all mine. Identical. Some of them were private sketches, passion projects I had never shown anyone, ideas I was saving for the day I could open my own studio. And they had all been released commercially under her name. How? It was impossible. No one had ever seen those files. My hands shaking, I dragged every single design file on my computer into the trash and permanently deleted them. I had to calm down. I had died once already. There had to be a blind spot, something I was missing. I had dedicated my life to this. I started studying art in high school, earned a full scholarship to the Rhode Island School of Design, and specialized in gemology and jewelry fabrication. My skills were real, my foundation was solid. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Whatever trick she was using, I would beat her. I would simply create something new. I shut down my computer. I couldn't risk it again. I pulled out a fresh sheet of paper and a pencil. An idea began to form. I sketched, letting my hand move, channeling the panic and fury into the lines on the page. Hours melted away. Finally, I leaned back, looking at the finished piece. It was a ring. The band was woven from delicate threads of rose gold, culminating in a white gold violet, its petals cradling a rare deep purple sapphire. It was elegant, mysterious, and noble. I would call it Violet's Kiss. Suddenly, a gasp came from across the office. "Oh my God, you guys, Sophie Walker just posted a new design. It's... wow. It's stunning." I frowned. "A new design? That's gorgeous. The detail is insane. Sadie, your sister is a prodigy. You must be so proud." Praise echoed through the room. Everyone was huddled around their phones. I pulled out mine, my thumb trembling as I opened Instagram. There it was, a new post from Sophie. The caption read, "Working hard to bring more beauty into the world for all of you. Here's a little something, I'm calling it Violet's Kiss." The image was a perfect, digitally rendered version of the exact design I had just finished sketching on paper. My vision, flawlessly executed. My breath caught in my throat. Someone walked past my desk and stopped, snatching the paper from my drafting table. "Hey everyone, get a load of this, it's the same design Sophie just posted. Identical!" The office crowded around my desk, murmuring, "She's right, it's exactly the same." A cold dread washed over me. I stood up to grab my sketch back, but someone shoved me. "Sadie Walker, don't tell me you were planning to plagiarize your own sister." The whispers turned accusatory. "Wow, she looks so prim and proper, but she's just a common thief." Then, a voice cut through the noise. "Wait a minute, haven't you guys noticed? A lot of Sadie's older designs look suspiciously similar to Sophie's." As people started pulling up our online portfolios to compare, I seized the moment and snatched my drawing back. "This is mine," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "Sophie is the one who has been stealing from me. All this time, it's been her." As if on cue, the office door opened, and Sophie walked in. She was wearing a pristine white dress, the picture of innocence. Her eyes welled up instantly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Sadie, why are you doing this?" she sobbed, her voice breaking. "I know you don't like me, but those designs are my life's work. They're all I have." She turned her tear-streaked face to the others. "Ever since she came back home, she's resented me. Is this about Mom and Dad? Are you punishing me for them?" Her performance was flawless. Everyone in the room looked at her with pity, then back at me with disgust. Someone from behind gave me a hard shove. I stumbled forward, losing my balance. The sharp corner of a metal desk met my forehead with a sickening thud. A warm trickle of blood ran down my temple and dripped onto the floor. Sophie rushed forward, pretending to help me up. The moment her hand touched my arm, she flung herself backward onto the floor. "Seriously? Is this girl for real, with all these people watching?" She lay on the ground, her eyes wide with manufactured fear. "Sadie, why did you push me? I was just trying to help." The entire office swarmed around her, asking if she was hurt, while shooting daggers at me. "What is wrong with you, Sadie? You get caught stealing, and now you're assaulting her." "Yeah, just leave her alone, Sophie. She's not worth it. Let the psycho bleed on the floor." Sophie slowly got to her feet, brushing herself off with a martyred sigh. "It's okay, everyone. She's still my sister, no matter what." A dry, humorless laugh escaped my lips. I looked at her, the master manipulator. "You know what, sis? You're right. I was wrong. Come closer, I have something I want to tell you." Wary but triumphant, Sophie stepped toward me. I smiled sweetly, and as soon as she was in range, I slapped her across the face, hard. The crack echoed in the stunned silence. She stumbled back and fell to the floor, more from shock than the force of the blow. "Whoops," I said, flexing my fingers. "So clumsy of me, Sophie. Guess my hand just slipped." She sat there, clutching her cheek, her mask of innocence finally cracking. Through the curtain of her hair, I saw a flash of pure, unadulterated hatred in her eyes, before it was replaced by her usual wide-eyed victim look. I was done playing her game. While everyone was still focused on Sophie, I stood up, walked out of the office without a backward glance, and left that part of my life behind for good. I stopped by an urgent care clinic to get the gash on my head glued shut, then went home. The apartment was empty. I walked straight to my room and began gathering every single sketchbook, every loose design, every scrap of paper with a drawing on it. If she was stealing my work, how? These were physical copies. It made no sense, unless I was truly losing my mind and copying her in some fugue state. My phone buzzed. The company-wide group chat was exploding. "We can't have a parasite like that working here. Fire her already. Seriously, get her out of the building. Can't believe I have to share oxygen with a thief, and she always acted so high and mighty. What a hypocrite." The messages blurred together. A familiar wave of nausea washing over me as I remembered my first life. The endless phone calls from unknown numbers, filled with screaming and threats. The insults, the ridicule. I'd had to cancel my number. Then they found my rented apartment. They camped outside, cameras ready, hoping to catch a shot of the disgraced designer. Someone even hung a banner across my door, "Thieves deserve to die." I hadn't left that apartment for a week. One night, starving, I snuck out. I sat on a curb, hunched over, wolfing down a cheap convenience store sandwich. A little boy walking by with his mother pointed at me. "Mommy, look, it's the lady from the internet, the thief." He then spat on my face. I didn't even flinch. I just looked at him and smiled, a strange empty smile. His mother quickly dragged him away. I had had enough. That last night I sat on the roof of my building, feeling nothing. The city lights glittered below, a beautiful rotten thing. The only person I would miss was my grandma, safe in the country, unaware of how far I had fallen. My thoughts snapped back to the present. I started packing a suitcase. I was going back to the country. Back to her. Screw the competition. Screw the career. I didn't understand Sophie's methods, but I knew one thing for sure. I sent a resignation email to HR, and an official withdrawal from the competition. I can't figure out how she reads my mind and steals my designs before I even finish them. So, I'll just stop designing altogether. Let's see what she submits then. I bought a ticket for the earliest bus heading out of the city. As the bus rumbled down the long country road, I saw her from a distance. A small, familiar figure waiting at the edge of the village. My eyes burned with tears. Before I left, I had called her. I was silent for a long moment before I could choke out the words. "I miss you, Grams." Her cheerful laugh came through the phone, quickly followed by a tone of concern. "Then you come home, sweetheart. I'll make your favorite pot roast." In my last life, that tough old woman, somehow hearing the news of my suicide, had been shattered. Her health declined rapidly, and she passed away not long after. This time, I wouldn't let that happen. The moment I stepped off the bus, she rushed over and took my heavy bag. Come on, let's get you home, the roast is already in the oven." Her little house wasn't big, but it held my entire childhood. In the days that followed, I fell back into the slow, quiet rhythm of country life. Back in the city, Sophie was panicking. She knew that without me, she had nothing. She tried calling me from different numbers, but I blocked every single one. It confirmed my theory. If I didn't create, neither could she. My grandma could tell something was weighing on me. One afternoon she sat me down in a rocking chair on the front porch. I told her everything. The impossible mystery of my designs being stolen from my own mind, always one step ahead of me. She listened, her brow furrowed in thought. When I finished, her expression was grave. "I have to go out tomorrow," she said. "You stay here and watch the house. I'll be back." She didn't say where she was going. The next morning she was gone before sunrise. By evening she hadn't returned. I started to worry, thinking maybe she was visiting relatives, and gave her a call. It went straight to voicemail. I tossed and turned all night, my mind filled with dark possibilities. She returned the next morning, but she wasn't alone. With her was another woman, even older than my grandmother. Her hair was a shock of white, her back bent with age, and she leaned heavily on a gnarled wooden staff. As she got closer, I saw it. The top of the staff wasn't carved into a snake's head. It was a real snake, coiled around the wood. Its eyes were like tiny red beads, and its tongue flickered out at me. It was alive. I instinctively took a step back. "It's all right," my grandma said quickly. "This is Elspeth. She lives a few hills over. Her people have been conjurers for generations. She knows about these things." I looked at the old woman, wary. She ran a finger over the snake's head, then gently touched the tip of that same finger to the center of my forehead. A wisp of something cold and dark seemed to pull from my skin and curl around her fingertip. "Child," she rasped, her voice like dry leaves. "Do you have an enemy? Someone who wishes you profound harm?" I thought of Sophie, and nodded silently. She sighed, her gaze heavy. "The darkness here is growing stronger. A woman's spirit is already a cooler flame, and yours, the light in your soul is nearly snuffed out. You don't have many days left." My heart seized. Was I cursed? My grandma made a move to kneel, but Elspeth stopped her. "No need for that. I came because there is a way to fix this." Grandma must have told her the whole story on the way here. Elspeth tapped the snake's head, and the creature uncoiled, slithering down the staff and onto the floor. It moved toward me, and I stood frozen, terrified it would strike. It wound its way up my leg, over my arm, and when it reached the soft flesh between my thumb and forefinger, it bit down. I hissed in pain. "My pretty one is just drawing a bit of the shadow out of you," Elspeth said calmly. "Child, the one who harms you is feeding a dark effigy. By making a sacrifice to it, she has tethered your souls. Simply put, she can access your creative spark, see the designs as they form in your mind. The price for this gift is your life force. She is burning through your years to fuel her talent." Her words hit me, not with shock, but with a dull, aching clarity. "My jewelry designs," I whispered. So that was it. When they brought me home, it wasn't to mend the family, it was to use me as a battery. My heart, already calloused, turned to stone. I sank to my knees and bowed my head to the old woman. "Please tell me how to stop it." She gently touched the top of my head. "Go back tomorrow, I will give you a ward. It will help you find the effigy. You must destroy it. When you do, the spell will be broken. The one who cast it will suffer the backlash. Her body will consume itself from the inside out. But that is not your concern. Evil reaps what it sows." After Elspeth left, I went to my room. I sat on my bed, hugging my knees, my eyes cold and hard in the dark. "Just you wait," I thought. "You're all going to pay." Following Elspeth's instructions, I said goodbye to my grandma the next morning and took the bus back to the city. On my wrist, I wore the ward she had given me. A silver bracelet shaped like a serpent. So detailed it looked as if it might slither away at any moment. When I walked through the front door, my father, mother, and Sophie were at the dinner table. 3 pairs of eyes snapped up to look at me. "You worthless girl," my father bellowed. "Where have you been? We've been calling you. Don't you know your sister's competition is in 2 days?" My mother shot him a look, silently telling him to soften his tone, no doubt afraid I'd run off again. Sophie just sat there, a smug little smile playing on her lips. My mother stood and approached me, her face a mask of maternal concern. "Sadie, honey, where did you go? You didn't even call. Your father and I were sick with worry." I looked at her, a smirk touching my lips as I watched her pathetic performance. "Why would I tell you?" Her smile froze. My father slammed his fist on the table. "Is that how you speak to your mother? You've become completely shameless. First plagiarism and now this. You're dragging the Walker name through the mud." Sophie immediately jumped up to soothe him. "Dad, Mom, it's my fault. If I had just defended her better at the office, none of this would have happened." I laughed out loud, a sharp, ugly sound. I started clapping slowly. "Bravo! Bravo! A truly moving performance. The whole family deserves an Oscar. Should I present you with your awards now?" I let my mocking gaze drift over the 3 of them, now staring at me with pure venom. "I think I'll skip dinner. I'm not much for dinner theatre. You 3 enjoy the show." I waved dismissively and went upstairs. Once in my room, I held the serpent bracelet and swept it over every inch of the space. Nothing. No reaction. So it's not in my room? I crept out and moved silently down the hall, planning to check the other rooms. I ran right into Sophie, who was coming up the stairs. "Sadie," she said, her voice laced with suspicion. "What are you doing outside my room?" I forced a bright, eager smile. "Oh, I heard Mom and Dad have bought you so many incredible pieces over years. I'm feeling a little creatively blocked, so I was hoping I could take a look at your collection to get some inspiration." My words had the intended effect. A flicker of greedy excitement crossed her face. If I was designing again, she would have a new masterpiece for the competition. "Of course," she said, linking her arm through mine. "Mom had a special inspiration room made just for let me show you." I fought back a wave of nausea and let her lead me down the hall. She unlocked what used to be a guest room. It was now a walk-in vault, lined with velvet displays showcasing hundreds of pieces of jewelry. My parents hadn't just loved her, they had worshipped her. "Mom just can't help herself," Sophie said with a theatrical sigh, though her eyes danced with triumph. "She sees a beautiful piece, and even though I tell her I have more than enough, she insists on buying it for me." Her words didn't touch me. I just needed to get away from her so I could search. I feigned a stomach ache and rushed back to my room. Over the next day, I sat at my desk, pointedly sketching meaningless, amateurish doodles. It must have worked. In a move of astounding arrogance, Sophie gave me the key to her jewelry room, saying I could use it for inspiration whenever I wanted. I took it. Let's see how deep a hole she could dig for herself. The night before the competition, her plan finally sprung into action. I was woken up by the sound of her loud, theatrical sobs from downstairs. Annoyed, I went down to get a glass of water, trying to ignore her. But my mother intercepted me, her face contorted with rage. She slapped me, hard. "You little bitch! It wasn't enough to steal from strangers. Now you're stealing from your own family." I rolled my tongue over the inside of my throbbing cheek and looked at her with ice in my veins. "Let me guess. Something is missing from Sophie's jewelry room. She gave me the key, so it must have been me. Is that the story?" "So you admit it!" my mother shrieked. From the couch, Sophie shot me a triumphant, teary-eyed smirk. "What a shame," I said calmly. "I installed a security camera in the hallway. I guess we'll just have to check the footage, won't we?" The expressions on both their faces, shock, disbelief, then panic, were identical. "It was probably me," Sophie blurted out, jumping to her feet. "I must have misplaced it. It's not Sadie's fault." Of course, there was no camera. I was just bluffing. I scoffed and walked toward her. I grabbed a fistful of her hair and yanked her head back. She screamed in fear and pain. "What are you doing?" I slapped her again, the sound echoing in the living room. "Next time you want to play a stupid game, Sophie, try using that pretty little head of yours for something other than a hat rack." The whole charade had ruined my appetite. I went back upstairs. The day of the competition, the three of them left together, leaving me the house to myself. It was the perfect opportunity. I searched every single room, saving Sophie's for last. Her room was a frilly pink nightmare. I swept the bracelet over every surface. Nothing. Until I passed a large painting of cherry blossoms hanging on the wall. The silver snake on my wrist grew warm, then hot, its tiny jeweled eyes glowing red. The effigy had to be behind the painting. I lifted it off the wall. There was a hollowed-out space in the drywall behind it. But it was empty, except for the desiccated corpse of a small blackened bird. She knew. She'd moved it. At that exact moment, backstage at the competition, Sophie opened her designer tote bag. Nestled inside among her things was the effigy. A wicked smile touched her lips. The effigy had warned her last night that I knew of its existence, so she had brought it with her. Back in her room, I forced myself to think. Where would she put it? Somewhere safe. somewhere she could keep an eye on it. The safest place was with her. I grabbed my keys and ran out the door, hailing a cab to the competition venue. I bluffed my way past security, pretending to be a production assistant, and found the private dressing rooms backstage. The one assigned to Sophie Walker had her bag sitting on the sofa. I unzipped it. And there it was. A twisted thing of blackened wood, part cat, part fox, with cruel long fangs. A palpable cold radiated from it, chilling the air in the room. As I lifted the heavy object, ready to smash it on the floor, a voice whispered in my mind. "Sadie, sweetheart. It's Grams. I miss you so much. Come and be with your grandma, won't you?" My blood ran cold. The statue was trying to trick me, using my grandmother's voice. Shaking off the horrid illusion, I raised it high. Just as I was about to bring it down, the door burst open. It was Sophie. The effigy must have called to her. Her eyes widened in terror when she saw me holding it. "Don't!" she screamed. I held it out like a shield. "Stay back, or I'll smash it." That threat terrified her more than anything. She backed away, clearing a path to the door. I didn't hesitate. I ran out of the dressing room and straight toward the main stage. The heavy velvet curtain was still down, but I knew the entire auditorium was filled with people on the other side. Sophie was right behind me. I turned to face her in the center of the stage, the heavy effigy in my arms, the live microphones hanging just above us. "This is how you did it, isn't it?" I yelled, my voice shaking. "You used this thing, to steal my work." Sophie reverted to her default setting. The victim. "No, Sadie, please. Just give it back to me. I'll explain everything, I promise." "And the truth, Sophie, or I'll drop it right now." She hesitated, then a strange, manic smile twisted her lips. "Fine. It's your own damn fault. You and your cursed fate. That old woman was right. You were born to be a blight on my life, to stand in the way of everything I deserve." Her voice rose, becoming hysterical. "Even after they sent you away, I was terrified. The fact that you were still alive was my own personal nightmare. So I found that old seer again. It turns out he was just a fraud who told my parents what they wanted to hear for the right price. But he told me about this." She gestured to the statue. "He told me how to get what I wanted. I just needed your birth date and a lock of your hair. A small price to pay. Your worthless life for my brilliant future." She was completely unhinged. "So what if I stole your designs? It's too late for you to do anything about it now, Sadie." I looked at her, a slow, genuine smile spreading across my face. "Is it really?" "Don't you dare try anything," she snarled, taking a step forward. "Give that to me. When you're dead, I'll be sure to visit your grave. And I will live a much, much better life in your place, as the world's most celebrated designer." I met her gloating, triumphant gaze. "I don't think so." And with all my strength, I hurled the effigy onto the stage floor. It shattered with an unearthly shriek that seemed to tear through the fabric of reality. A plume of black smoke erupted from the pieces, and then vanished into nothing. "No!" Sophie screamed, a raw animal sound of despair. She lunged for the broken pieces, then looked up at me, her face a mask of pure murderous rage. But as she charged at me, a sound filled the theater, the whirring of gears as the great velvet curtain began to rise. The entire audience, the judges, the reporters, they had heard every word. 1,000 camera flashes went off at once. In the front row, my parents stared up at Sophie, their faces pale with horror, the full weight of their mistake finally crashing down on them. Sophie clutched her head, screaming. And then, it started. Dark blood began to weep from her eyes, her nose, her mouth. It was the backlash, just as Elspeth had described. Her skin began to blister and decay right there on the stage, an awful, cloying stench filling the air. As the chaos erupted, I turned to leave. but the reporters swarmed the stage, surrounding me. "Miss Walker, what you've endured is unbelievable. Do you hate your sister? Did you enter a design in the competition this year? How does it feel to finally be vindicated?" Through the mob, my parents pushed their way forward, their faces etched with a pathetic, desperate guilt. For years they had believed I was a curse that would kill my sister. They had chosen the tiny, fragile infant over their 4-year-old daughter, abandoning me for 2 decades without a second thought. They only remembered they had another daughter when Sophie decided she needed a new source of inspiration, and now they stood before me, begging for forgiveness with their eyes. But the part of me that had ever wanted their love was long dead. I pushed past them without a word. Security guards finally intervened, creating a path. I walked away from the stage, from the city, from them, and I didn't look back. The story became a national scandal, trending online for weeks. Sister steals, sister's soul, choose cursed competition, jewelry heist. The competition was won by a talented designer from out of state. I went back to the country. With my savings, there was more than enough for my grandma and me to live comfortably. We spent our days gardening, our evenings playing gin rummy on the porch, watching the fireflies. And I have to say, a life this quiet, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever designed.